Well, good morning. I hope it's a good day wherever you are on this December morning. Today we'll be talking with Jim Lajoie, asking him about the Superior Health Foundation and also about a new book he's written. I'll also be talking with Captain Moore from the Salvation Army about their annual effort to make the Christmas season happier for many people who will not have a Merry Christmas without our help. It all starts right now.
From TV6, this is the Ryan Report. Now, here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, our first guest this morning is the Executive Director of the Superior Health Foundation. He's also an author. Today we'll talk about both of those subjects as we learn more about what the Superior Health Foundation is and what it's doing in Upper Michigan. We'll also find out about his latest book. Our guest is Jim Lajoie. Jim, welcome to the Ryan Report.
Well, thank you.
Nice to have you here. Let's talk first about the foundation.
Sure.
I know that's your full-time job.
Yes.
And a lot of people probably aren't familiar with it, but the foundation was established as part of the sale of Marquette General's assets to Duke Life Point. Is that correct?
That is correct. Back in September 1st, 2012, Duke Life Point, which is a for-profit entity, purchased Marquette General Health System, and from that, the old Marquette General Foundation converted to the Superior Health Foundation. This is pretty much a mandate from the Attorney General that there needs to be a health foundation in the community where the hospital serves. So we were given a corpus of money in that transaction to convert to the Superior Health Foundation. We moved off campus, we moved downtown to North Front Street in Marquette, and then we invested those monies, and the interest earnings off of those monies are put back in the form of grants, health center grants, to projects all across the Upper Peninsula.
And as I recall, that sum of money was something like $23 million.
$23 million, yes.
So that's a substantial amount of money.
It was a substantial
amount of money, yeah.
Yes.
But of course, if you're going to invest it and make it last for a long time, it allows you to make grants on a continuing basis. First of all, I think it's important for people to know that this is totally separate now from Duke Life Point. You're no longer affiliated with
Absolutely.
the hospital.
Yeah, we are a totally separate entity. We are a 501c3, but we are our own corporation, and we're not affiliated with Duke Life Point or any other hospital for that matter.
And I think it's also important for people to know this is a UP-wide endeavor.
Absolutely.
This is not just focused on Marquette, isn't that right?
Yeah, and that's a big point to make out, Don, in the sense that Superior Health Foundation is a UP-wide foundation. We provide grants all across the Upper Peninsula, and to that end, we have a board of directors that represents the entire Upper Peninsula. So we get great input from different areas of the UP, and even though we're based in Marquette, we provide those types of funds, and we do projects and services all across the Upper Peninsula.
And how does that process work? How does someone go about getting a grant from the Superior Health Foundation?
Well, we have two different types of grants. We have mini grants, which we review monthly. Those grants are up to $2,500, and those are mainly for startup projects, projects that people look at to get something going with a health-centered focus. And then for our large grants, we do those twice a year. We have a spring grant cycle, and then we also have a fall grant cycle. And information is usually sent out in advance. We put it on our website, it's sent out to all the media, and then we also put it on our Facebook page to give people an idea of when the deadlines are and then the process they must go through to qualify and to submit a grant.
So it's probably best to make a contact and just find out what the process is rather than us trying to explain it here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And who makes those decisions? How are those decisions made?
We have a grants committee which is made up of several members of our board, and we meet monthly, and we go through the process of looking at the grants, and we have a list of criteria that we go through. It's kind of a checklist, and of course we need to have a budget. It needs to align with our mission and what we're doing, and there are certain criteria that it has to adhere to. And then we have a discussion. We go through a process, we look at them. Is it something that is regional in focus? Is it something that is sustainable, which is a big thing for us, particularly with large grants? And we go through the process of ranking them, and then we decide upon the money that will be given out. And then once we make those decisions, it goes to our full board for their approval.
Before we miss it, one of the deadlines is coming up fairly soon, isn't it, for the main grants?
Yeah, for the large grants in the spring, Our application deadline for that will be January 15th, 2016, so we're getting information out as we speak on that application process. It'll be available online, and they can also pick up applications in our office.
I've looked at a number of the grants you awarded. One in particular, for example, which I think kind of displays the fact that you're looking for regional projects. Dial Help in Houghton,
Right.
$150,000.
Yeah.
What was that project about?
Well, one of the things that we do with our grants is each year we pick a proactive grant giving project to support, and 2/3 of our large grant funding goes to that. So 2 years ago we picked oral health for children as an area that we wanted to concentrate on. And this past year we picked improving the mental health wellness of people across the Upper Peninsula. So 2/3 of our grant funding went to that project, and Dial Help was the largest recipient. They received $150,000 from us. They have a wonderful suicide prevention hotline and project that has worked very well in the Copper Country for a couple of counties. And what they're looking to do is use that model and take that model and go all across the Upper Peninsula with it. So that funding will enable a good project to expand and serve more people in the UP.
And so even though in the case of a number of these projects we see an organization is located in Houghton or Ishpeming or wherever it might be,
Right.
in many cases they are providing services or hoping to provide services across the Upper Peninsula.
Absolutely, and that's a big buzzword with us. When we look at grants, you know, we look at where they reach, we look at the audience and how many people are going to be affected by it, because we want to make our dollars work the most prudently that they possibly can to benefit as many people as we can. And the mental health project really resonated with a whole number of people for obvious reasons. It's so much in the news, and we feel like we've done a good thing in providing those types of resources for organizations that can benefit from them.
Okay, I want to talk to Jim Lajoie, the author, too. We'll do that
Okay.
in just a minute. Back with more on the Ryan Report after we take this break. This morning I'm talking with Jim Lajoie. Jim is the Executive Director of the Superior Health Foundation. Before we wrap up the foundation, you do continuing fundraising as well, don't you, with
We
your
do.
organization?
We do. We're very active. I mean, we're a public foundation, and a big part of what we do is continuously fundraise for various funds that we have. We have a breast health fund. We have an organ donation fund. We raise money to help support our mini grants and to provide, you know, the types of services and the marketing outreach that we need to get our message out.
And you were explaining to me during the break that if anyone donates to these funds, the money goes directly to the cause, not to support the overhead of the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that our board did that I think was very progressive and very visionary is they decided to carve out a portion of our corpus and put that directly toward operations. So we have an operational endowment. So anyone who gives a gift, end of year gift, that's completely tax deductible, they can be assured that it's going to go to their area that they wanted to support rather than for operations.
Okay. Shifting gears, I think I remember you first maybe as a reporter for the Mining Journal.
Yes, yes.
It's, so your interest in writing has gone back a long way? Always
Yeah.
had an interest in writing?
I always had an interest in writing. I can remember as a young boy kind of journaling when I was in 5th, 6th grade, and really had a knack for it. I enjoyed writing and wrote for the school newspaper in high school, wrote for the Northwind when I was at Northern Michigan University, and it's always been a passion of mine.
And you actually wrote your first book in 1991?
Yeah,
About the Wildcats?
about the Wildcats national championship hockey team. It's called Year of the Cats, and you know that was a look back at their championship year. I co-wrote that with Ron Plum out of Escanaba, and it was a great thing. It was a great accomplishment for the Wildcats at that time, and
certainly, yeah.
and it's interesting that book still sells to
Oh,
this
really?
day. I still get book orders.
Is that right?
All these years
Living
later.
off those royalties?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And you also wrote another book a couple of years ago about
Right.
your mom. Tell us about that.
The book that I wrote a couple years ago was called Hi Mom, It's Me. My mom suffered with Alzheimer's disease for approximately 2.5 years before she died. And when she died, it was really difficult because I had a very close relationship with her, and,
Sure.
and I wanted to do something in her memory. So one of the things that happened near the end is when she couldn't remember my name or who I was, I would say, Hi Mom, it's me. And that's where the title came from it. But that book is more of a reflection about dealing with Alzheimer's disease, how crippling it can be to friends and family, but it was more about the life lessons that I learned from my mom growing up.
And now you've ventured into fiction, although
Yes.
as I understand, this fiction is somewhat life experience based.
Yes.
Tell us about your new book, which is called No One Would Listen.
No One Would Listen, yes. This is it is. I ventured into fiction, and how this one kind of came about, Don, was a couple of years ago. I was visiting with some friends of mine, and it was in a social setting, and we got to talking about our grade school and junior high experiences, and we got on the subject of bullying, and we talked about how awful it is and how difficult those growing years are. And I put that in the back of my mind, and I thought, you know, this has become a real problem in our society. Not only bullying in schools, but with the advent of the internet and the cyberbullying.
Right.
I wanted to do something about the experiences that I went through. So even though it's fiction, it is based upon some real life experiences that either happened to me or experiences that I've witnessed with bullying. So that's how the project came about, and put that together this summer, and it was just released 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's just out now. Have you got some reaction yet from people?
Yes, very positive reaction actually. It's been picked up you know, across the UP. In fact, I just got a response from someone in San Diego, California, who read the book a couple of days ago and has already recommended it to their school board that they purchase it in their school and make it required reading for their students. Because one of the aims that I want to get out of this is to be able to have a conversation about it between students, faculty, you know, high school students, and teachers about what bullying is and what we can do. Because I think just standing off to the side and saying it's not my problem is really not an acceptable way to approach this.
I think when you grew up, and I know when I grew up, people weren't as focused on bullying as they are today. And this is a good thing, I think, that we are.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think you're right. You know, in that time, you know, there was more of a framework. Teachers kind of stepped in, and they still do that now. But there's so many layers to bullying now, and it's become so a part of our society that it's become ingrained. And that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing, because it's very troubling, and a lot of people get hurt, and we want to be part of that solution.
Well, the book again is called No One Would Listen. It's available around the UP now, and probably on Amazon, some places like that.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon.com. It's available at Snowbound Books in Marquette, and it's also at the Falling Rock Cafe and bookstore in Munising. So, and it's $10.
All right. Thanks for coming in and talking about the book
you.
and bringing us up to date on Superior Health Foundation.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for being our guest today. Back with more on the Ryan Report after we take a break. Well, Christmas is a wonderful time of the year, but it can also be a very challenging time for some families who can't purchase gifts for their children, and in some cases are having a difficult time putting food on the table. Fortunately, there are several organizations who work very hard to help those in need. One of those is the Salvation Army. With us this morning is Captain Moore. Thanks for joining us, Captain.
Good morning, Don. It's my pleasure. You know, grace and peace of Christ to you this holiday season, and all your listeners too.
Thank you very much. That's really important. You know, as we approach this holiday season for you, I assume it's a time of opportunity, but also great challenges. Is that right?
It is. It's a great time of joy when we celebrate our Christ's birth, but it's also a time of challenge as the weather gets colder and the heating bills go up. People are home for the holidays and need a little bit more food in the pantry to take care of needs there. It is a great challenge. Thank goodness for the Canathon that just wrapped up to help us fill up the pantry so we can distribute food items to families. But we continue to be challenged in fundraising. Our kettle season is about midway at this point, and this is our major fundraiser, so we really need folks to come out and throw $1 or $2 in those kettles to help us out. Volunteers also to ring those bells to encourage neighbors to give.
I think I saw a report here on TV6, in fact, where they said you had like 1,800 slots to fill for kettle ringing jobs.
Yes, 1,800 2-hour slots, and that was a little earlier on, so we filled a few of those since then, but there's still a lot of opportunities. And folks can fill those slots by a couple different ways. They can go online and look at volunteer opportunities at our website, samarquette.org, and they can sign up themselves there. Otherwise, they can call the office and talk to our help there, and that number is 906-226-2241. They can call and volunteer volunteer that way also. Lots of opportunities to help out though. Even if they don't want to be outside or can't be outside in the cold, but want to help by volunteering, we have opportunities at our building. We're giving out Christmas toys to families that need help and still distributing food out of the pantry to help for the holidays. And just, dealing with the clients as they come in and go, carrying the toys and helping them go through the toy shop. Also, maybe even they would like to help, but not be as, don't have as much time to get involved personally. We have an Adopt a Family program where individuals or groups or organizations can get a wish list from a family, adopt them, and do a little shopping, which is sort of the fun part, going out and buying gifts for people. And then they bring them to the Salvation Army, and we contact the families. They come and pick up the items for their Christmas to help them have a joyful holiday.
Now this is a huge undertaking, isn't it? How big is the? Can we describe that?
Well,
how big is the need?
Oh goodness! It seems like every year the need seems to grow. It seems we're asked or tasked to help more families with less resources. So, I expect that by the time the count is done, we'll have helped over 300 families out of our toy shop alone with toys, plus another 30 plus adopted out to families, and that's just for toys. Even more families need to come and get help with food also, that they may not have children to get toys for. And that's just the Salvation Army Marquette. Like you said, there are other organizations, the Salvation Army in Ishpeming, the St. Vincent de Paul's, and we're all working together in this effort to make sure that people have, especially food, shelter, clothing through this harsh season, and joy and being able to share gifts with their family.
Well, and certainly that's a big part of the joy. What you also, I think, do some direct mail fundraising as well?
We certainly do, yes. We have a company that helps us out with that, and they send appeals out to the people in the community, folks who have donated to us and have a heart to continue to help their neighbors. So when you see those that come in the mail, a response, put a check in there, send it off. Some folks are concerned because it goes to a post office box instead of coming to our office. Please don't be concerned about that. We have a service that actually collects those, and they batch them together and deposit them into an account for us. And that way we can do tracking, and we can send out thank you letters to donors. We can make sure that they get the proper receipting for their tax concerns. But if they want to drop their donations off the office, that's wonderful too. We always love to see our helpers and donors come in and wish them a happy holiday.
Do you ever worry at this time of the year that you're not going to have enough?
I wouldn't call it worrying. I really have faith that God is going to take care of his children and that he's going to make sure the need is met. Sometimes we want more than we need. And I think always our needs are fulfilled, but it's wonderful that we have generous folks that even care about meeting some of those wants with making sure children have gifts for the holiday and families have a nice meal to celebrate the holidays.
And it's also wonderful that we have people like you and many others who work as you do really year-round to make this process work.
I really consider it a privilege to be able to serve the community the way I do. Okay. And without the donors, without the people supporting their neighbors and helping out, it wouldn't even be a possibility. So I really owe the thanks to those people who support and help by making those donations so that no one in our community has to suffer and go without.
Okay. Thanks for coming in this morning. I appreciate it very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.
God bless.
Thank you. I'll be back with more on the Ryan Report after we take this break. If you're planning to eat leftover Thanksgiving dinner for your lunch or evening meal today, or you just want to gobble down a turkey sandwich, you might want to think about that. First off, fair warning, I'm not an expert on food, nutrition, or anything related to health, so take anything I say with a grain of salt. Pun intended, definitely. According to the experts, your leftovers are safe for 3 to 4 days. A spokesman for the USDA says the biggest mistake turkey lovers make is keeping leftovers in the fridge too long. She says eat them, freeze them, or toss them out by the Monday after Thanksgiving. But they're so good. I know I've eaten a turkey sandwich at least a week later, but maybe I was just lucky. The real reason I bring this up is because we're now faced with dates on so much of the food we buy. You've seen them on packages in the supermarket's meat department with a sell-by date, a gallon of milk with a use-by date. I can tell you I've tempted fate more than once by drinking milk beyond that date. My theory, if it tastes okay, it must be okay. For sure we know what sour milk tastes like. Part of the problem for me is that for most of my life, food did not come with any dates. Today we have dates on everything, including the bottom of food cans. But I grew up thinking that food in a can was good forever. You could hand it down from generation to generation. Of course, they are rather clever with their terminology. We have the best by dates. Best by December 1st, 2015. But what happens after that? If we're going to have a best by date, shouldn't we also have a pretty good by date? And a probably still okay date? And maybe it's time to throw it out date. There are some who are now suggesting that it's not the food in the cans or packages that is bad, it's the dates on food expiration labels that are bad. A lack of regulation of food labels is a major factor leading to this. 40% of all food going to waste in the U.S. There's a study by Harvard, no less, that says phrases like sell by, use by, and best before are poorly regulated and often misinterpreted. They go on to say, it's time for a well-intended but wildly ineffective food date labeling system to get a makeover. If that's the case, I have my recommendation. What I really think they need is a sick-by date. You eat it after that date and you're going to get sick, no doubt about it. So if you still have some leftover Thanksgiving dinner in your refrigerator you're planning to eat, it's pretty clear you're tempting fate. But if you have a can of green beans in your pantry with a best by September 2015 date, you have to make your own decision. I know what mine would be. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Time to wrap it up for another week. My thanks to Jim Lajoie and Captain Moore for being here to talk with us this morning. Today's show is coming up next. Have a great day and join us next Sunday morning.